I'm Zita.
I'm Jarrod.
Welcome to our home. Come on in. Do you remember when we bought our first property together? So you had a flat in London already,
right.
a one-bed flat in London. And then we decided to buy one together, and we wanted to buy a bigger house with a garden, a freehold. Obviously, we had all these amazing ideas and plans. And then we decided to move down to Reigate, or we explored the different areas, didn't we?
That's right.
The good thing was we were in that industry. We were in banking, finance. I was a mortgage advisor. So really, it was daunting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was new for us as well. But it wasn't as daunting because we knew what to expect in terms of mortgage application, legal process, and so on. But obviously, we are experts, so it's easy for us. But how about your everyday people? What do you think they should be doing first?
Well, I think initially they need to identify ideally what area they want to live in. It could be where they're living now. You know, they might have children in the local schools. They might be planning on having children. They might, be close to their work. All of those things they need to consider. But the first protocol would probably to go on Rightmove, see what, the ideal property you want to purchase and how much that is. Get an idea of, what the property prices are in that area. And then I think pretty soon after that, you need to speak to a mortgage broker, and they will give you, a realistic budget for you of what you can actually afford on your income. Incomes are calculated quite differently for some lenders. There might be challenges. You might be self-employed or employed. There's a lot of things to consider really, but the first port of call would speak to a mortgage broker, find out what you can actually afford, and then you can go back to your ideal area and the ideal property you want to buy, and then look, is that actually affordable? Or you may have to consider looking a bit wider or looking for a slightly smaller property.
Yes, I think that if you don't know your budget, you don't know what you can afford, and you might have this dream of living somewhere, I don't know, prime London, buying a freehold, and then actually you can't afford that. If you can afford it, and your mortgage advisor, identify that, what you're thinking is completely doable, then that's great, then let's look at the next steps. But not everybody have that budget, so then they need to go back to the drawing boards and then perhaps compromise. It's a lot of the times it's compromise, isn't it? Compromise on area, compromise on size, but we can guide people. That's the thing. An expert mortgage advisor will be able to guide you and then have a plan ahead. So once this is clarified and people know what they can afford, obviously it's very important for them to understand their costs, obviously deposit needs. So because that's quite a bit of surprise sometimes to people, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they think, once they've got the deposit together, that is they can start looking and start putting offers on property. But there's a lot of other costs involved with buying a property. You have legal fees, there might be stamp duty, land tax you have to pay. There's survey costs, particularly if you're buying a freehold home, it's good to get a survey. There's product fees associated with a mortgage, maybe a broker fee. So there's a lot of other costs involved, and there's things like moving costs, things like that, even renovation costs to a particular property they're looking at. So there's a lot of other costs, just not the deposit, because a lot of people just focus on that.
Yes, and I think deposit as well. Most people know that they need a deposit, but of course now there are options that you can buy a property without a deposit as well. So again, there are criteria, requirements around that. So if you have this idea that I'm fed up with renting, let's see if I can buy a house, I don't have the deposit, I have money to cover the cost but no deposit, we can look at that. There are options, but it will be a bit more tricky, a bit more expensive if you went down that route. So the minimum 5% deposit is needed. But also what people don't understand, sometimes quite complex requirements needed for proving the deposit.
Yes, absolutely.
For us mortgage brokers as well as for the solicitors. So there are occasions, like what are those occasions where it's a bit more complex?
If you've got a gifted deposit, that's a bit more challenging. There's paperwork that needs to be completed for that. If the deposit is coming from an overseas source, it can be, you have to prove where that deposit has come from. We need generally 3 months proof of that deposit, but a solicitor may need considerably more, even 2 or 3 years in some cases. So you need to make sure you're quite well prepared, in terms of getting that documentation together.
I think what people don't want, they don't want surprises, they want to be prepared, and I think that's what it is about. You want to buy a property, be prepared. So with the deposit, the costs, and then also there is a very important document they should have in their pockets when they start viewing properties, isn't it?
Yeah, a decision in principle. You can do a decision in principle online yourself with a mortgage lender. However, you are inputting those details. If you get a mortgage broker to do your decision in principle, they check all your documentation, your ID, your bank statements, your pay slips, and they calculate it correctly how a lender would calculate your income, okay? So they will give you a really accurate decision in principle, where if you're doing it yourself, oftentimes it's not actually accurate and you can't actually borrow that amount. So you need to be very careful when doing your own decision in principle. It's always best to get a mortgage broker to do that.
Absolutely, because it's what people don't know. It's very easy to put figures into the system. However, people don't know what the criteria is for that type of income, different contracts, different circumstances, and just basic things like overtime, commission. A lot of people do get those type of income. There is a way of calculating that, and if people don't calculate it correctly, they will get a false decision in principle, and therefore they don't actually have the correct affordability figure.
Yeah, and a lot of lenders have different lending criteria. Okay, so some may take, if you're self-employed, they might take 1 year's worth of accounts, but most lenders won't do that. So we as mortgage brokers know that which lender is the most appropriate for a particular client, and things like benefit income is weighed differently at different lenders. Okay, so there's a lot of different things that go into it, particularly on the income side for a mortgage.
Yes, I think in summary, I would say be prepared. Don't go and, people get excited about, let's buy a property, let's go and let's view properties without any preparation whatsoever. And that can cause some stress and also unpleasant surprises. So if you are prepared and you follow the process we just described, that will be efficient, successful, less stressful. Isn't it?
Yeah, and we take our clients through a step-by-step process, right from the start and right up until completion. And I think it just helps them through every step of the journey. Runs quite seamlessly. So
absolutely, yeah.